think it is still an important topic, which is sad in itself, but I think it's important that we have this discussion. And with the intro this morning from Claudia, I have to say that really spoke to me, and that we get like this applause in a session on these topics. It realizes that we really hear that there needs to be a change, and where if not here with the institutions at stake. So I'm very excited that we have a very high-level panel. Also, you can be excited, it's a small panel, which means we actually have a discussion. You will have a chance for Q&As. And I'm still hiding some speakers in the front, so don't be scared. We have some inputs. But what we want to talk about today is how do women and marginalized groups actually enter the transport sector, and how do they stay there? And not only at management level, but also as transport workers. So to make that possible, we will also have some voices from the Global South in a video from the International Transport Workers Federation. But firstly, I would like to head over to Hannah Brixey, who is, and I'm excited about this, the Global Director on Gender at World Bank. So we will also hear some insights outside of our transport bubble. So yeah, very excited about this. And thank you, Hannah, for being here with us.
Thank you so much, and I'm truly delighted to be part of this discussion on transforming transportation. And I would say that we actually jointly and in partnership have an opportunity to transform transportation from being a deterrent for women to becoming an enabler for women. And we see from analysis how the problem of access, cost, and safety impact disproportionately women's life. You know, when I visit countries, and as we have been, the World Bank will be launching its new World Bank Group gender strategy. So I visited more than 20 countries over the past year. I've been struck how often in urban areas as well as in rural areas, I have heard that girls don't go to school because they don't have safe transport, and women don't seek any work outside household because there is no safe transport. So safe transportation really could be a major enabler, as you know, but it's actually beyond. What we see is that you know, when we think about the gender equality dimension, and you know, we think about the strategic priorities to accelerate gender equality, we see that transportation is at the core of all these priorities. So take our strategic objective number 1, to end gender-based violence and elevate human capital. Well, how much sexual harassment is happening in transport? How much improvement for women's life could happen by addressing gender-based violence in transport? And I know there are many good examples, and I look forward to hearing about those. Human capital, I already spoke about access to education, but of course access also to health services. Now let's take strategic objective number 2, to expand and enable economic opportunities for women. Well, it's about jobs. How many jobs can be available to women in the transport sector if they are given the opportunity? Right? Economic assets and enabling services. Well, transport is hugely important as enabling service, but I would think for women entrepreneurs also the ability to own vehicles is an important economic asset. And the third strategic objective is to engage women as leaders. Right? And I'm really happy that through World Bank operations, we already have some good examples. And I certainly see that in partnership that we can do more to engage women as leaders and help countries create the platforms to bring women into the transport sectors and then grow and build the potential of women to participate in decision making. Because what we see from evidence across sectors is that when women participate in decision making, actually the results are better. Coverage of services is better. The quality of services are better. So we see that women bring a different perspective, and it benefits everyone when women participate in decision making. Now, the World Bank has made a great progress on using its engagement in the transport sector to actually help countries address some of the needs and challenges facing women, including integrating in operations the special needs or special perspective or multifaceted barriers, addressing the multifaceted barriers facing women. And these barriers, as you know, sometimes are as challenging as social norms, right, and behaviors. So integrating in World Bank operations behavioral and norms interventions that would actually help change behaviors on transport has been tested and can be brought to scale. I think what makes me excited is how much the World Bank Group in partnership and engagement in countries is supporting programs to engage women as decision maker in the transport sector, to expand the participation of women as transport workers, and also to address the needs of female entrepreneurs when they are tapping labor force, and to prioritize women as transportation users. Now, for the way forward, what we see is really in partnership to do more to mobilize action based on knowledge and evidence. So from all the evidence that we see how important the transportation sector is, and for women's economic empowerment and for countries' economic development through women economic empowerment, to really mobilize concerted effort and action. We see that in partnership, we can bring a lot of the innovations that we have tested through our operations. We can bring these to scale and really help countries to implement these approaches in national systems and make institutional reforms nationwide. So importantly, we also see that we can replicate what works in our own operations. And I'm delighted that with the new scorecard, there is also an indicator on access to transport services. So there will be more emphasis on measuring the millions of women who will benefit from safe transport services in the future. And through the implementation of the gender strategy, also have stronger emphasis on engaging women as leaders and addressing the range of challenges they are facing. So as I said, I'm really excited that today we can exchange insights and ideas on how to transform transportation to really enable and empower women. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This sounds all very exciting. So we're looking forward to seeing all the results of the new strategy. We're heading over now to Alana Dave. She's the director of the International Transport Workers Federation. So as I said before, I think we're all quite privileged to be here and to be able to have these discussions. And many of the people who are actually affected by our work are not at this table and they are not on the stage. So we wanted to set the tone a little bit to give the voice to the actual transport workers and to the actual female transport workers that are currently driving buses, working at a metro station. So I think it's important that we all are very clear about who we are talking about. So Alana, I'm very, very happy that you're with us and I'm excited for your input.
Thanks, Inna. And I'm just going to give a very brief introduction to the video clip that we're going to be watching shortly. For all of us in these international policy spaces, after many years, we know that we've won recognition of the vital need to address barriers for women in transport. But as Inna has said, very rarely in these spaces do we hear from the frontline women workers who move transport, who experience these barriers and problems, and how they try and respond and overcome them. So in this video that you're going to be seeing, you'll be hearing from two women who are drivers in the new BRT system in Accra, Ghana. Now, what you should just bear in mind that BRT in Accra was meant to be an alternative, or is an alternative, to informal passenger transport jobs with all their problems and precariousness, and open opportunities for women. These women are in an occupation that historically they have been excluded from. Driving was very male dominated. But you'll hear from everything that they say in the video clip that they still experience multiple barriers at the level of recruitment, as well as in the workplace, which risks retention. And one of the problems that really stands out is the issue of women getting to and from work. and how this exposes them to violence, as well as having an economic impact on their earnings because of them having to pay for transport to get to work. So let's watch the video, and I very much hope that their stories will set the tone for our discussion today.
We women drivers, we have so many challenges and harassments on the road.
Some of them, when they come to board the bus and they saw you, the female sitting behind your steering wheel, they'll tell you, go. You wait for another bus because we are female.
When a woman is driving and a man sees her, their mindset is, you women, you deserve to be in the kitchen. So why are you driving a bus? So they will start to interfere you. Sometimes even if you are driving and you park and you want to join the road, they will never give you a way to get inside.
Some of the drivers, they normally use abusive language on us. You come when they just pass by, then you do it like this. You do like this. They do like this. It is a lot. Normally, we don't care about them. We just concentrate on what we are doing. Sometimes when they use the abuse language on us, in fact, it's painful, but how for you can't go down and tell me something. So you just, sometimes as for me, I will be just laughing. I have some of the workers at my area. Before leaving home, I have to call this person, are you ready? Then we go together. But if those people are off that very day and me alone going to work, I normally pick a taxi.
There are so many bad people, armed robbers, drunkards, and so many things. So it's very hard for me, a woman, to work alone at that time. So I take a taxi a day, morning and evening. So by the time the month ends, my money is gone. My money is finished.
It's only 15 minutes work, like because of the time. So I have to pick a taxi and pay myself for my own safety from my salaries every day.
When I was coming into this job, I started attachment on 2019. And we normally do attachment on 3 months or 2 months before we get a pass. Someone told me I have to have an affair with him before he will give me a pass. I didn't give myself. Because of that, I stayed back for 2 good years. And I'm now working by the grace of God. I'm now working.
And we will have lots of interviews with these women, and we really want to share their voices into the broader audience. So stay tuned, follow us, reach out to us. It will come up in the next couple of months. So, but yeah, end of advertisement. It is a heavy topic. So yeah, we have a very prestigious panel here, and I think it actually worked really well that it sets the tone on a different level to actually hear from the transport workers what we are facing, and that the problem is a little more multidimensional than just having a job application and getting the job. So I would like to head over to Claudia Lopez, the former mayor of Bogota, because you were also a female transport worker, just on a different level of management and hierarchy. But how did you experience your time as a female mayor, and also like having very ambitious measures in the transport sector? Like, do you experience any like backlash in your work?
Well, thank you. Yes, I think we all women experience this sort of different treatment, very unfair treatment in any sector that we try to go in and lead. But that's our life. I mean, it's not good, it's not bad, that's the way it is. And it's opening, every time we have an opportunity in any position to open a window, to open new opportunities, to bring in more women, to change the mindset, to provide them with different roles, to break barriers, we should do it. So I have the honor to be the first elected mayor of Bogota, the first, not only the first woman elected, but the first lesbian, diverse woman elected ever in Bogota, which speaks very well of my city, of Bogota, of course, not necessarily of myself. So I will say, how do we use this opportunity? It was hard to come in, yes. It was hard to be in the position to lead, to get credibility, to not be treated unfairly, to not be harassed, yes. But the point is, we will go through all that pain. So what for? What for? At least we should leave the position, having opening as many windows and as many opportunities for the next woman to be in. So in addition to what I mentioned this morning, we were able to bring this care notion. I want you to remind us about some figures. 52% of the entire population in this world are women. That's the case in Bogota, right? 52%. At least 1 out of 4 women in the world, at least one. It could be 2 out of 4, depending on the region or on the city. We work more, we receive less. Why? Because we do unpaid care work. The larger the informality in your city, the larger the unpaid care work done by women. Because we, women, we are the social security system of half of the population in the planet. Of half of the population in the planet. It means we work 7 hours more daily for no money at all. For no money at all. And that's precisely why we have double the rate of poverty of men. If you work more with less income, it means poverty. But the most important type of poverty we have is poverty of time. When people say, why don't you participate? We don't have time, we're working, Why don't you have, leisure, pleasure, whatever? We don't have time, we're working, So recognizing that and using all the infrastructure, particularly social infrastructure, to recognize, to reduce, and to redistribute that unpaid care work over other people, over other members of the women family, over public servants in the mayor's office, over public servants in the national government, and over the private sector. There are at least 3 other persons' shoulders. We can redistribute that unpaid care work. That's what we did. We call that care blocks, meaning we use schools, community centers, park and recreation facilities, cultural centers. The infrastructure was already there. Most of that infrastructure was used by kids. And where the moms were? Maybe in the escalators or in the entrance waiting for their kids. What do we use the next room, the room next to the kid, so that the woman can have free time, the education opportunities that she renounced to take care of others, the training opportunities, the job location opportunities? That's a care block. We were able to build in 4 years, 23 care blocks in Bogota to offer services for 500,000 women and members of their families and to live out of poverty, half of them, through those services. The other thing is now they have time. Now they have time, now they have training, now they have education. So the next thing they want is income, is a job. It's an income generation process. It could be done either by looking for job opportunities for them or creating and designing sort of as businesses that can serve their needs as a woman, as a caregiver, and also as an empowered woman. So in the transportation sector, we built La Rolita. I don't know if you know that we Bogotanos are called Rolos. That's the nickname we received. So the public transportation operation of the city was fully privatized before I came into the office. There was mostly around 10 public contractors. 2 of them were broken. They stopped providing the services. They couldn't manage financially. So I decided to mitigate that risk by building a mixed system, public-private. I founded the first company, public company, for transport operation in Bogota. And I decided as a policy that it will have only clean transportation, meaning e-buses, and they will be gender equity throughout the company, from the manager to the drivers to the maintenance people, 50%. In order to ensure that goal, we have to find, train, help, convince women that they will be able to bring in that experience at that training. We have to support, for example, not only the training, but the transportation license. It costs money and they haven't received any income yet. So we have to pay for it upfront to train them and to convince them, to convince a woman that she will be able to manage that bus. That's the hardest job. No, I'm not going to be able. Of course you're going to be able. I don't know. I will teach you. I don't have money. I'll give you the money. I don't have the transportation license. We'll give you the transportation license. It's empowerment by convincing people that we're going to be along the way. It's going to be tough. Being the first in anything is tough. It's scary. It's normal. We feel scary, but we will be there along with you. And then changing the company. It's not only training them and bringing them in. Yes, half of the people in the company, in the La Rolita, is now a woman. But it's also operating the company in a way that serves. So the company in itself, the building of the La Rolita, the patios of La Rolita, the parking slots of La Rolita are in itself care blocks, because women need childcare within the station, within the parking lot. They need coffee, they need laundry machines, they need all the stuff close to them or within the parking lots or the stations or the buildings. So transforming this public management building into a care block is the step that has to go in parallel. And the last thing is, well, we did the care blocks, we created La Rolita, we include this woman. And there was another thing. I mentioned this morning, green corridors. You have trees, sidewalks, and cycling together. The users will be women, mainly. We are the one who walks. Commuter jobs, commuter transportation is straightforward. It's done by men. It's long distance. So that's why it requires either buses or trains or stops. But care trips are shorter, usually are done by walking or in public transportation if it is feasible to do it by proximity. So land use planning, designing the city for density, for proximity, and for diversity, that's a city that's going to be safe for women, for girls. And if you think, when we go to school, for example, in Bogota, going to public school, 800,000 kids go every day to public schools in Bogota, right? 80% of them came by walking or by biking. Both boys and girls. These gender roles happen afterwards, but they know that, they remember that. There was a time in which they did it together in the same way. So if you teach them to bike, we teach in the care blocks, we teach women to bike. Women who are 40 years old and 54 years old, that's the average age of a woman caregiver. So you teach them how to bike, they will have a bike. It will be easier for them to do that care trip. But then the problem will be safety. safety in the road, security and safety, road safety, which is two different things, but both have to come together. So I will say land use planning, care blocks, and public transportation with a gender perspective that really can change a city. Is easy, is cheaper, is cost effective, and is probably one of the most effective things we could do through the policy making. And if you know how to do that in detail, I will invite you to know Maria Mercedes Jaramillo, who's here, is the former Secretary of Planning of Bogota. She did the first land use planning gender perspective driven in Latin America. So you can have an example of that. And Felipe Ramirez here was the Chief Officer of Transmilenio, which is our BRT, and was the creator of La Rolita. So if you want to know the details, you have the two guys here in the room.
Thank you so much. I already see Naomi is like on her seat waiting. But I just hear that maybe just for all the World Bank and WRI colleagues, maybe we can have next year's TT under the topic of care infrastructure in the transport sector. That would be like a nice topic when I listen to you. But now, Naomi, happy to head over to you, and then also like after that.
Yeah,
but just introduce. I need to introduce you first. If you're the founder of Flown Initiative, she's from Kenya, and Flown is actually striving to create a safe and reliable transport in Kenya and above. And I think your story is also very powerful. I think you want to react directly, so I skip my question. Go ahead.
Yes, I've been dying. So I wanted to talk about caregiving for women professionals. As Insa has mentioned, I run a nonprofit in Kenya, and one of our programs is Women in Transport, which works to attract, retain, and advance women professionals in the industry. As you were speaking, I was jotting down. So when you look at women in transport professionals in Kenya, most of them are in Kenya, we call them single households, right? So they are in women-led households with an average of 3 kids. Most of them are between the age of 29 to 40 years old. So they are in their childbearing age, caregiving age. But we have an informal public transport industry. So the working shift is about 12 hours a day. So we were curious about how does caregiving look like when you are, the only parent present, and you're working 12 hours a day. So we found that the women in transport were, quote unquote, delegating parenthood either to the eldest child. There's actually a syndrome called the elder daughter syndrome. Right. They are also delegating it to their older sisters and their neighbors. And we've just finished a study with JICA, which is the Japanese Development Agency, supporting the Nairobi Metropolitan Transport Agency, which is now responsible for building the first bus rapid transit in Nairobi. And we were looking at the 5 counties in Nairobi where the bus rapid transit would travel through. And one of the questions we had to both professionals and public transport organization is, what is a family-friendly public transport organization? What does a policy like that look? And unfortunately, we did not get the correct answer. People gave all sorts of answers, but they were not family-friendly policies. And I really love what you talked about having care blocks in public transport organizations. And I would like to say in our situation, I think we've seen an improvement through formalizing the industry. It has created a formal pipeline for joining in. And when we first started the Women in Transport program, we spent almost 4 years of that program working on retaining, because the turnover is so high for women in transport that it was only after, I think, 2019 that we started working on the other mandate, which is attracting and advancing. And caregiving was one of the issues that kept coming up. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also would like to head over now to Ibrahim, our sole male on the panel. Hope you feel very comfortable. Yeah, a round of applause for the... Ibrahim is practice manager at the World Bank in the MENA region. So what we're seeing in the MENA region, I think, is also very interesting because we see a lot of women with high university degrees, but they are not ending up in the actual workforce. So maybe you can dive into that. Like, what's the barrier there? Like, how can we address it?
Thank you very much. And it is an honor to be amongst the 6 female speakers. And coming from the Middle East, I am a Middle Easterner. So, but at the same time, I have 3 female in my household, and they're my bosses. And I appreciate always their perspective of doing things. What I must say, my 13-year-old is a public transport fan. So despite the fact that she is registered in the school bus, she does not hesitate to come home with her girlfriend on a public bus. And with all honesty, that makes me proud. But going back to your question, indeed, when you look at Jordan, where female participation in the education system is very high, and they do very well in high school, at the universities. They're really super performers. They're much better performing than male. But then you question, why aren't they engaged in the workforce? So we decided to conduct a study, taking 3 cities in MENA: Amman in Jordan, Beirut in Lebanon, and Cairo in Egypt. And the person who led the study is Moniza. She's sitting back there. And I'm very happy to be speaking on her behalf and sharing some of the findings. So in Amman, we found out, despite the high level of education of female, only 13.6% of the labor force comprised of women. Lebanon is very well known for its openness. The culture is very diverse, very open to different things. Still, you'll be shocked to know that it's only 33% of women comprised of the labor force. Then you go to Cairo, and Cairo is just 19%. So you would question, why is this happening? So we found out that the needs for transport, for public transport, is amongst the higher requirements among these women. Compared to male, where they are flexible, they can have driver's license, they can share a ride with their friends and neighbors, they can drive, etc. And like Her Excellency the Mayor said, mostly the male go from point A to point B, versus the female going to the daycare centers. They take their kids to schools. They take them to the health services, and they go shopping. So the trends amongst them are different. The needs are different. So we found out that 3 out of 5 women in Amman, they do not apply for jobs because of poor public transport service, not reliable, can't afford it, and unsafe. While in Beirut and Cairo, 2 out of 5 actually feel the same way. So you would wonder, why is this really happening? Why aren't governments investing more in public transport? Well, I'll give you one reason in Amman and in Jordan in general. Because of the national debt, and because that the service is run by the municipality, they prefer that the municipality takes the burden of providing the public service and basically come up with the money. So they would not really provide sovereign guarantee or subnational sovereign guarantee to the municipalities, but in order for the municipalities to finance their services. And we find it quite difficult to engage with them on that basis. But now we're seeing at the bank, our new president is promoting a different structure of the guarantee, where we hope that will be more flexible and able to lend to these municipalities who are a bit risky to borrow, in order to be able to help them really deliver these important services. The other point that I should make, in Amman, if we were able to provide them with public safe transport, we expect 59,000 female to engage in the workforce. And that would translate an additional 2.3% to the GDP, which is huge for a country like Jordan and for the city of Amman. So in conclusion, what we have heard is that reliable, safe, affordable, and I should say green public transport is an area where we should focus on to contribute to women's economic empowerment in the Middle East countries.
Very interesting first round. I have some questions, but I think I would like to open if there's like some direct question. Yeah, please go ahead. There is a microphone in the middle. You can line up behind it if you have questions. Otherwise, we will just continue.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been very interesting.
Could you say your name first?
Okay, my name is Mansoor Rahman, and I have been a senior transport specialist with the World Bank, and now a consultant, because I've come out of the, and Carla has been my boss before. So, so anyway, I think it's been very interesting and enlightening to hear you all. But I think I will address one important point, and especially what, after hearing Ibrahim, that, you know, in these countries, and I originally come from Pakistan. So, you know, the reason that you said, why not a greater percentage of women apply for jobs and are in the workforce? Because, you know, primarily it's these are Muslim countries, right? Even Jordan, Cairo, Egypt, and so by religion, it is the duty of the men of the house to work outside and earn for the and bring the food or you know, household. I mean, he's responsible for that, while the ladies are responsible primarily to take care of the children and their upbringing and so forth. So, you know, and then also Islam says the ladies should go for education, you know. It encourages their higher education wherever, so that if they are educated mothers, they can bring up their children better. So the education wise, the ladies have to be going to school and college and wherever. But for where the job comes, then there are again two reasons. Like in Pakistan, I'll say, well, one is that there is economic conditions, and there are not enough jobs in the marketplace. So the first priority is a man who has to do the job, and he has to earn and bring the home. While the women's first priority is doing the upbringing the children. But what happens that, and the ladies, there are a lot of ladies, doctors and in other professions in Pakistan, for example. But, you know, they don't do job until, you know, their children are grown up and have gone in the colleges or married or something. Then they go back. But primarily, there are jobs they will not do, because it is supposed to be the men who should be going out and earning. So I think.
Okay. Just to challenge that a bit, like the global percentage of women in the transport sector is around 20%, and in road transport it's even lower, because a high percentage is in aviation, which means stewardesses and so on and so forth. So it is a structural problem of the sector that it's not attractive for women to work in. So I think, of course, in many countries, it's in addition also like a religion-related or societal problem, but we see it globally. It's in nearly every country that we look at. Yeah, but of course.
Thanks for your remark. At the end of the day, I think we should provide the choice, right? Yes, it's the religion, it's a culture, but I think it is really the choice. It's not, I mean, Islam did not forbid women from working. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the Prophet's time, you know, his siblings and all of that, you know, they were working, so it's not an issue. But it's today in most of the Middle East countries, women do actually work, but then they find it very difficult to access jobs. And you said a very important point that some of the countries, they do not have enough jobs because of the economy, right? But the fact that we can facilitate their accessibility to compete for jobs, I think that's an important measure for us to play. When we look at the governments, we do not see any of the government's representatives saying, oh, we're not investing in public transport because men do not access it or do not use it. Or we do not want to invest it because women are the only users. I don't think we've heard it from any official from the Middle East.
Yeah. Naomi also wanted to react.
Yeah, I wanted to say that it's been interesting watching how religion plays out in the chapters. As I mentioned, we have 4 chapters. The Nairobi, Nakuru, Machakos one are predominantly in Christian counties, and the Mombasa one is in the coastal area, which is Muslim. And we've noticed that in Nairobi, Machakos, Nakuru, is that we find women as workers, and that's probably because there is entry barrier in terms of capital, because the women in these industries are in the bus industry, apart from Nakuru, which is in the motorbike taxi. So for the bus, we are looking at around $30,000 in order to get a bus. For a motorbike, we are looking at around $1,500. And what has been interesting is that in Mombasa, because it's a Muslim city, is that women have created a niche in the 3-wheeler business. And for that, you need about $2,000, which was quite interesting to see. But also women have become investors in tuk-tuk. You rarely see them on the road, but we found out when we did a study that most of them were investors. And I think that speaks to the need to not look for a silver bullet to address these issues, and to prioritize the voices of women in each of the places that you go to. Yeah, thank you.
Let me speak as a Pakistani woman. No, so I'm also a senior transport economist at the World Bank. I'm the primary I'm the primary breadwinner in my family. But the next one needs to be like not World Bank colleagues. I don't think we have any more World Bank colleagues. So look, I think Pakistan has a very interesting problem, right? We're on the Kuznets curve, where both my grandmothers were working women, my mother was not, and it's sort of the natural progression of, as a country grows economically, women fall out of the labor force, then they fall back in, right? So really it's the trajectory that Pakistan is in that is determining why we have such low female labor force participation. With my generation, it is changing. Every single friend that I have is a working woman in some way, shape or form. And the other thing to note about Pakistan is, and I say this as a joke, from being a medical doctor, the marriage market returns are much higher than the economic returns in the job market. No, I'm not kidding. So women are making a rational choice. It's just the returns are much higher on the marriage market than in the labor market, as an economist, no? Because people have studied this issue.
Hello, my name is Lorraine Montes. I work at the Inter-American Development Bank. Thank you very much for the presentations. or I have a quick question. I totally agree with what you were presenting, but I was thinking, what else can we do at the transport community to drive a change for achieving a more balanced distribution of the care responsibilities? Any idea from your side? Because I think that's like attacking the root of the problem, and it's important to deal with it. Thank you.
Who wants to take it up? I think it's Claudia, right?
Well, the president of the IDB just hired a top advisor to deal with gender inclusion and diversity. It's called Diana Rodriguez, she's Colombian. She set up the care block system in Bogota, so I hope she will have great ideas to help you. But I mentioned it sort of this morning. I want to encourage again here in this temple of the World Bank. Really, you want to get things done? Invest in cities. Send the funds and set the conditions for cities to apply directly for a package that it has care blocks, active mobility, and green corridors. That's it. It costs a fraction of what a metro or a BRT costs. It will provide women with the network. You need a care network. I can offer a caregiver woman and a scholarship in MIT. If I don't offer her a reliable, lovely care for their people, for their children or their elders or their members with disabilities of their families, she won't take it. I can offer her a job at the World Bank. She won't take it. She won't take it, period. She will only take opportunities if we are able to offer her the care work that she is doing it. We need to institutionalize, either in the private or in the public sector or in both, that care work for women to take that option, both at the education market and at the job market. So this is cheap, believe me. You can do care work, care blocks, and green corridors with a fraction of what the BRT system cost, with a fraction of what a metro system cost. Set the conditions and set the money for cities to apply directly to invest on that. And we will come, I can assure you, we will come. And for the best of my knowledge, with all due respect, no religion ever that I know says, let's women empower and free. In Catholicism, it happens the same thing that in Muslim world. And if you go to evangelical or Christian religions, it happens the same thing. However, in the last 100 years, we women have different roles. And for the next 100 years, we will definitely have different roles. So regardless of cultural and religious barriers, the change of women leading the world is irreversible. We just need to accept that it's happening, that we women finally have the decision to make the choices. We're not going to wait for the world to offer us the choices. And of course, if you offer us the choices, that would be great. Thank you so much. It will help us. But guess what? The change in the last 100 years happened because we decided to give us the choices, to create the choices, and to work and live and progress with those choices. And it will happen already for your generation. And in, let's say, 5 or at the most 10 generations from now on, this won't be even a discussion. I can assure you. But this is the time of transition. And transitions are painful. You know, transitions are painful. For example, let me give you this piece of evidence. It's academic evidence in Colombia and unfortunately in Latin America too. When women fled from violence, for example, in Colombia has a horrible civil war for 60 years. So they flee rural areas, they come to cities to find safer places for their families, to find jobs, to find new opportunities. When they came into the city, they're able to get a job easier than the man head of the family. You will suppose that if a woman is now feeding the family and helping that, she will have the support of her partner. She receives more violence from her partner when she became economically independent. That's the price we paid. That's the price we paid. However, we are taking those opportunities and bringing these opportunities. So if there is a simple thing you could do in the Inter-American Development Bank, in the World Bank, in the Asian Development Bank, set up the funds and the conditions for cities to access directly money for care blocks, green corridors, and green transportation.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I know. We can do it afterwards. We only have a couple of minutes left. I can only stress that. And I think what's important for all banks, and we know that in the gender and feminist discussion, the private is political. And if we don't understand that, we will never break barriers for women in the sector. We need to look at the homes. We need to look at childcare. They are not getting lost in marriages. That's not true. It's structure. If we don't go there, we will never change anything. One last question, and then we head over for our closing remarks.
Okay, hi, I'm Luz Caballero. I'm a specialist in gender and transport and energy. And after this morning plenary, we were a group of gender practitioners. We were talking about what we felt, what we heard, and we understood that we already know what we have to do for sustainable transportation. We already know what to do to make things more people-centered. And I think that Claudia gave a little tip that is like, think as if you were a girl when planning urban and transport systems. And well, the recurrent question that came into the group was a recurrent problem that we have in many infrastructure sectors, especially in the transport sector, and is that what is going on with leadership? What's happening that we don't see women in the leadership positions? We've seen the change that Paris had and Bogota had, thanks to leadership position at the city level. What is going on that we don't have more women in these tables for decision makers? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we head over for our closing remarks. I'm really sorry, maybe you can come up later and raise your questions. We will have some conclusion by the World Bank colleague, by Carla Gonzalez Carvajal. Oh, I'm sorry. She's a practice manager of Eastern Southern Africa at World Bank and has the challenging task to close this section.
Very much after this session. I have to say, I'm sure all of you are very happy to be here after what you have heard. So a round of applause to all of you because you choose to come and hear about gender. Come and hear about gender in transport. So the first thing that we heard today is that perceptions and stigmas can be modified and must be modified. And all of us are responsible to do that as practitioners in transportation and of course as human beings, regardless of our roles. So the first stigma that I would like to challenge is that women are vulnerable users of the transport system. In the context of mobility, a system that is designed to ignore its users makes them vulnerable, and that's a fact. So women are not vulnerable users by nature. The system makes them vulnerable by design, ignoring their travel patterns, trip chaining, mobility of care. That what makes women vulnerable when using transportation systems. Second, women are not vulnerable citizens, but 50% of the population around the world. Now, under conditions that can make them vulnerable as well. So to turn around some of those conditions, as some of you are asking, we need to empower them financially. And to do that, the world have been focusing on health and education mainly. And this is the second thing that we can collectively start changing. We need to push, as Hannah was saying, to insist on mobility is the enabler for the other things that will empower women economically. So if we want women to join the workforce in big numbers, we need to shift the focus into mobility challenges. They are critical for jobs creation, and yet in developing countries, as we heard, mobility acts as a deterrent. Under this context, to bring more women in the transport sector is not an aspiration. We have to change that. It's a condition for the systems to be inclusive and to support women's economic future. We need women voices taking decisions that impact women. And I will finalize with 3 concrete actions because our moderator requested us to be very concrete on the actions. Out of everything that I hear today, hire more women at all levels of the organization and accompany them along with other women. That is a fact. It's critical for women in the transport sector, in STEM, to come together to the professional, different workforce participation. Second, pay attention to the city's agendas. That is something that we have been recurrently here today. And bring data to make connections between the gender agenda in transport and the other very critical agendas in transportation. So we are going to go for streamlining gender. And the one thing that is critical and is part of today's conversation is the correlation between decarbonization and women's travel patterns. Women are the green travelers. Decarbonization is not only about electric vehicles for individuals. Without green mass transit, we will not achieve the reduction in GHG emissions. So currently, we can count on women as the biggest users of public transport. But let's be careful, because we are taking them for granted. We are making them captive users because the alternatives are not there for them. So the system must support women's needs, and we must ensure that they will become green travelers by choice. Not only we need them to continue to use the system, but we also need them to use it in even bigger numbers. And I will close by saying the gender agenda in transport is not only about parity or equality or women's rights. To focus on gender in transport is a condition for the world to achieve economic growth and the decarbonization goals. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you. We're closing the session. And as Claudia said, we will be by your side. I think it's an invitation from all of us, like, reach out to us. We really would like to support each and every one of you in this. Thank you.
Yeah.